Tony Beets arrived in Canada with just $200 in his pocket. Today, he owns a $20 million mining empire and vacations in a Mexican oceanfront condo. But here's what Gold Rush cameras never showed you. He sleeps on a couch during mining season with only chocolate milk in his fridge. He set a pond on fire that cost them $31,000 in fines just for a Viking ritual. And the most shocking part, Hare refused to follow Discovery's scripts and became the highest paid miner on the show. Anyway, this is the story of a man who built luxury on his own brutal terms. Tony Beets was born on December 15, 1959, in a frozen Dutch village called Wideness. That winter was brutal. The temperature dropped to -8 under sea and killed almost a quarter of Terrigen's livestock. His family had 4 kids and Tony was the third. His father owned 52 cows and barely made 2 guilders a cow each month. By the time Tony was 5, he was up before sunrise, milking cows with hands so small they'd blistered trying to grip the frozen teeth. He did this every day before school for 8 straight years. Most years he missed over 40 days of school because off-farm emergencies. He was already choosing work over everything else. Their house was tiny, just 89 square meters for 6 people. Tony slept in the same bed as his twin brothers until he was 14. His parents worked more than 14 hours a day just to keep the farm running. The cows gave about 847 L of milk each day during Thebest season, but once you took out feed costs, vet bills, and repairs, the family barely cleared while you 240 guilders a month. That wasn't enough. His mom collapsed twice during calving season. She had to be hospitalized once. Every day was the same. Clean 50 stalls, haul over 2 tons of hay every week, and deal with cow deaths that cost nearly 2,000 guilders to fix. His dad got arthritis by age 45. His fingers twisted from years of milking. The extra cheesy the SOL added just 180 guilders a month. Not even close to enough. At 12, Tony made a move that shocked the whole town. He refused to attend church confirmation classes. Everyone went. Bud wanted to work. That year, he started driving a 1965 Massey Ferguson tractor worth more than the family saved in a year. He had agit for machines. He could listen to an engine and tell what was wrong. He unsurbuilt a busted hydraulic system using junk, metal, and wire. Then came in March 1972, a cow kicked him in the chest. He broke 2 ribs and started bleeding inside. He spent 6 days in the hospital. The bill was 420 guilders, and that hurt the family finances badly. His father wasn't just angry about the money. He was angry Tony had entered the stall alone. But that boldness would become a pattern. At 16, Tony fell for a girl named Minnie. Her family's farm was just 340 meters away, but their families hated each other. Her dad had banned her from seeing any of the Beets boys after Tony's brother was caught stealing apples. But they met in secret in the loft of an old barn. They even carved their initials into the wood nearly 5 meters up. Within months, they were dreaming of running away to Canada. When Minnie thought she was pregnant in early 1977, it nearly exposed them. She was 43 days late. That scare convinced Tony the farm life had nothing to offer. In 1978, he did the math. The farm earned 480 guilders that year, but the costs were over 12,000. That left a little over 2,500 in actual profit. Diesel prices had tripled since the oil crisis. Milk prices had been stuck at 0.6868 guilders a liter for 3 years. Tony's own wage was just 500 guilders a month, less than minimum wage. But his father couldn't pay more. When their best cow died off mastitis and they couldn't afford to replace it, Tony watched his father cry over the numbers. That was the final straw. He found out Canadian farm workers made more than double what he earned. In 1980, he packed up and left. Tony and Minnie arrived in Abbotsford, Canada, with just $1,200. No English. His first job was at Pacific Mushroom Farms. The place was awful. Long shifts and dark windowless rooms that smelled like rot. The air stank off ammonia and rats crawled through the compost. He made $350 an hour. Minnie, who was pregnant, sorted mushrooms for even less. They lived in a cold basement and slept in winter coats. Tony couldn't read warning signs and almost got crushed by a forklift. After 8 months, they had both lost 30 pounds and thought about giving up, but they didn't. Then came a turning point. In March 1982, while working construction in Vancouver, the scaffolding gave out during a storm. Tony fell 30 feet and cracked his skull. He spent 6 days in the hospital. The injury payout was $10,000. That was life-changing money. But what shocked him more was that the company had ignored safety warnings. 3 other workers had reported problems with the scaffolding, and nobody cared. That experience gave Tony a deep distrust of authority. He used the money to buy a truck and tools. He swore he'd never work under anyone like that again. Tony moved to Alberta and got a job on an oil rig. The pay was decent, $15 an hour, but the work dried up fast. By late 1984, oil prices crashed from 34 bottles to $10 a barrel. Tony lost his job along with 85,000 others. Their rent was $500 a month, and now they had 3 kids. Minnie worked 2 shifts at 8. Her hands were always burned from hot grease. Tony pawned everything he had, even their wedding rings. They heated baby bottles with candle. Then, on Christmas Eve, their landlord gave them eviction papers. That night, Tony decided to go north. He drove to Dawson City in an old 1976 Ford pickup with over 200,000 miles on it. He had $200 in his pocket. The truck broke down 6 times on the Alaska highway. Once the brakes failed on an icy mountain pass, he fixed it with wire hangers and duct tape. When he got to town, he asked at every mining camp for work. Even though he had no clue how gold mining worked, people laughed at him. But his skills with heavy machines got him hired at Guggenheim Creek for $12 an hour. On his first day, he drove a bulldozer into a cell box and caused $3,000 in damage. But instead of quitting, he worked 16-hour days to make up for it. They kept him. That first winter nearly killed him. He lived in an old trailer with newspapers stuffed in the walls. The inside temperature dropped to -20. Outside, it was -45. The heater kept breaking. He slept in every layer of clothing he owned. One night, in January 1985, he got stuck outside during a blizzard fixing a generator. His hands froze. 3 fingers turned black. The nurse said he needed to be flown out to avoid amputation, but Tony couldn't afford that. He soaked his hands in warm water for weeks. He lost feeling in 2 fingers. He ate mostly beans and lost 40 pounds. Minnie was terrified he wouldn't make it to spring. Then came a break. He was earning $1,200 a week, working equipment for a mine. When their main excavator broke down, Tony scavenged parts from abandoned machines. He fixed it in 2 days. That saved the crew's $150,000 season. They doubled his pay. He realized his mechanical skills could make him rich. In 1986, he leased his first claim for $5,000 near Bonanza Creek. He pulled out 20 ounces of gold, about $8,000. But spring floods wiped out his shelter and half his gear. He lost $4,000. It was a harsh lesson. Nature didn't care how hard you worked. Next year, hypernerd with a guy named Jake Morrison. Jake had impressive gold reports. Tony put in his entire $20,000 savings, but the numbers were fake. They barely found any gold. Jake had scammed to other miners the same way. Tony fought him in the street and took him to. He lost everything and had to declare bankruptcy. He lost everything and had to declare bankruptcy. His reputation took a hit, but the local miners who knew the truth still respected him. In 1988, he worked for Big Al McGregor. Tony noticed that fine gold was escaping through large screens. He built a 3-stage mesh system that improved recovery by 30%. Al gave him $50,000 in bonuses that year. But Tony didn't tolerate slip. He fired 3 workers for drinking on the job. People started seeing him as someone who didn't mess around. In 1989, temperatures dropped to -50. Most operations shut down, but Tony's crew had one last rich patch to dig. He welded repairs himself, wearing 3 layers of gloves. He built a heating system using diesel burners to keep machines from freezing. They pulled out 150 ounces of gold worth $60,000. Tony kept half. He used that money to buy a used Caterpillar 225 excavator. That moment made him an owner, not just a worker. In 1990, Tony Beets was just 31 when he bought Tamarack Inc. for $1.2 million. People thought he'd lost his mind. He took out loans with painful interest rates just to get the deal done. The company came with 10 mining claims across 500 acres, which sounded promising, but less than a year later, Tony found out the previous owners had hidden debts. $800,000 worth. Equipment loans unpaid, payroll taxes ignored, environmental fines still hanging. He was already in deep water. To stay afloat, he sold his house, worked nearly 18 hours a day, and threw everything into the company. Some nights wanted to quit, but he kept pushing. So did many. That kept Tamarack alive. By 1991, he took a big risk on Scrivener Creek. He poured in $200,000 to upgrade a wash plant, which was basically all the money he had left. At first, it seemed like it was working. He pulled out $400 of gold, which was worth around $160,000 back then. But things turned fast. The ground betrayed him. 2 bulldozers, each worth $80,000, were swallowed up by sinkholes when the permafrost started shifting. Tony and his crew tried to dig them out, but both machines were a total loss. That season hurt, but it taught him things no book ever could, especially about Yukon's frozen ground and how not to fight it. In 1992, gold prices dropped to $350 an ounce. People panicked. Tony didn't. He saw it as an opening. Other miners were desperate, selling their claims for almost nothing. He bought 5 new ones for just $2,000 an acre when they usually went for more than double that. That move made Tamarack the 3rd largest operation in Yukon by size. But Notavarian was happy. Rivals accused him of mining on their land. Some even filed complaints, but nothing came of it. It only made Tony's name bigger. Some called him a shark. Others called him smart. A year later, in 1993, trouble came from inside. A group of 12 workers had been secretly sabotaging the operation for months, messing with equipment, ruining gold recovery systems. It cost Tony $50,000 in losses. He caught on. When he fired all of them at once, things got ugly. They vandalized $30,000 worth of machinery. He hired guards for $500 a day just to keep the site safe. Out of options, he turned to family. Many took over Thebes. Relatives filled key roles. The new crew saved him $100,000 in wages. That season ended with 600 ounces worth $240,000. Smaller crew, bigger heart, better result. Then came 1994. Tony took the biggest gamble of his career. He leased Paradise Hill for $500,000. Then spent $300,000 more on triple wash. The reward, $1,000 in a single season, $400,000 in gold. But it didn't. A neighboring mine had a cyanide spill. Poison ran into Tony's water source. Fish died. His equipment stopped for 3 weeks. Nothing moved. Clean U-Pan backup systems cost him $150,000. He was furious, not just at the damage, but at the government, who he blamed for letting that kind of processing happen. From then on, he built his own water recycling system so no one else could shut him down again. In 1995, Paradise Hill became everything. Tony spent $1 million on a massive trauma wash plant. He ran it himself day and night for 72 hours straight. No sleep, just him, and the machine. That's when things went wrong. Diesel fumes filled the area. Tony passed out from carbon monoxide poisoning. He had to be rushed to the hospital. Doctors said it could have caused permanent damage. He survived, and Paradise Hill pulled in 1/200th worth $480,000. He spent another $25,000 on better ventilation, swearing never to let that happen again. A year later, he bought the Indian River claims for $750,000. The land held ancient riverbeds rich in gold. Tony tried something bold. He brought in high-pressure water cannons, 2,000 psi blasts to cut through permafrost. It worked. In 6 months, they pulled out 500 ounces worth $600,000. But then, disaster. One of his best excavators, worth $300,000, sank into soft mud caused by all the. Tony spent 3 weeks digging it out by hand and small tools in freezing weather. He recovered it, but it cost another $50,000 in repairs. That mistake taught him how dangerous soft ground could be, even with good tech. In 1997, things turned personal. His son, Kevin, just 16, stormed off after an hour. Tony had yelled at him during a rough shift, and Kevin quit on the spot. They didn't talk for half a year. It was a low point. But as that season went on, Indian River produced 2,000 ounces, $800,000 worth. Meanwhile, a massive fuel shortage hit the region. A First Nations blockade stopped diesel deliveries. Tony's site ran dry for 3 weeks. Airlifting fuel cost $50,000 more than usual. After that, he always kept reserves and started building better ties with local communities. 1998 brought another challenge. He built a $400,000 road system to reach new areas of Paradise Hill. To celebrate, he drove the first truck himself. Then spring came. Floods hit like never. Water swallowed $2 million in equipment. Everything vanished under 8 feet of rushing water. Tony didn't give up. He bought $200,000 worth of pumps and started draining. It took 5 weeks, but he saved most of the gear. That year still ended with $2,500, $1 million. After that, he moved everything to higher ground and installed flood alarms. Then came 1999, the biggest year yet. Tamarack produced 3,000 ounces, $1.22 million. But during an audit, they found $100,000 worth of gold missing. Cameras revealed the thief, Jake Morrison, a mechanic Tony trusted like family. Jake had been stealing gold for 6 months, selling it in Dawson City. Tony was crushed. Jock went to jail for 18 months. Tony swore from then on, only family would be load in the inner circle. In 2010, Tony shocked everyone again. He bought an old 1930s Viking dredge for $1 million. It hadn't run in 30 years. Most thought it was worthless. He had it torn down during brutal winter. Even as tempted as 40. 2 companies he hired went bankrupt trying to handle the mess. Parts needed full restoration. He ended the year $500,000 deeper in debt. He even mortgaged Paradise Hill. Many called it his worst decision ever. By 2011, reassembly began. The project now cost $2 million. When the dredge ran in August, it produced $200,000 worth. But disaster came on day 12. The massive bucket chain snapped and sank into the river. The chain weighed 8 tons. Tony had 2 hire divers and recovery teams, costing $150,000. He dove in himself even though the water was only 4C. It delayed operations for 3 weeks, adding $75,000 in lost production. The chain had to be rebuilt from scratch. In 2012, the dredge finally worked well. It pulled in $1,000, $400,000 at lower costs than wash plants. But then Tony tried something stupid. Peppered 50 gallons of gasoline into the dredge pond and lit it on fire for fun. Government shut him down. Fish died. He got fined $75,000 and lost 6 weeks off. It ended up costing him $180,000 in total losses and legal trouble. 2013 brought profits again. Viking dredge produced 2,000 ounces, $800,000. But the main motor failed in July. The oil hadn't been changed for too long. Rebuilding the engine cost $85,000. Production stopped for a month, losing another $300,000. Tony lived on the dredge, slept Bezadeth motor, and rebuilt it with Mike. He lost 25 pounds during the grind. Then 2014 changed everything. Viking pulled 5,000 ounces, $10 million. One day alone brought in 47 ounces, but corrosion almost destroyed the dredge. Steel hull shad thinned by 40%. Tony spent $400,000 to fix it. He welded new plates himself in -30 cold. He got frostbite on 3 fingers, but wouldn't hire help. After that, the Viking became the only dredge of its kind still operating in North America. Behind all this was Mint. She managed their $5 million yearly budget with razor precision. In 2000, when their main excavator died, she leased a new one for $200,000 without telling Tony. It saved their season. In 2002, she had enough of his long hours and left for 2 weeks until he promised to hire more crew. Even Tony had limits, and many set them. Monica became Yukon's youngest female bulldozer operator at 16, making $80,000. In 2010, she shocked everyone by eloping. Wench came back pregnant and demanded her job. Tony was livid. But when she improved gold recovery in 2012 by 4,000 ounces, he saw her value. Her skills made millions, and she became vital to the operation. Kevin's big moment came in 2015. Tony gave him land, but refused to lend new equipment. Kevin worked with hold gear and still pulled in $1,400. It proved Tony wrong. That changed everything between them. Mike had his crisis in 2016. He pushed his crew too hard, 14-hour shifts. They walked out mid-season. He fired them all and trained a new team himself. That year, they pulled in 5,000 ounces, $2 million. Even Tony said, "Mike saved our asses." In 2011, Tony Beets joined Gold Rush. Back then, he wasn't supposed to be a main character. Discovery had him down for just 3 appearances in season 2. They paid him $10,000 per episode. Nothing special, just a rugged Dutch Guyan. The background, but everything changed the moment. Just a rugged Dutch Guyan. The background, but everything changed the moment.